The Invisible Ray from 1936 was a fun and a little goofy mad scientist film featuring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. It's a great film if you're just looking for a little bit of silly escape. Film opens up, it's a dark and stormy night. We are in a big mansion somewhere, and we have some characters awaiting the arrival of some scientists. They're going to be visiting with the character Dr. Janos Rukh, who is played by the always awesome Boris Karloff. And we can see early in the film, he's clearly nutty. He says lines like, "They'll never laugh at me again." Whenever you hear a character say that type of thing, they're going to be a little crazy. The actress Frances Drake plays Diana Rukh, his neglected wife, and Frances Drake is not to be confused with Francis Drake, the English sea captain best known for circumnavigating the world in a single expedition from 1577 to 1580. Wait, I think I used that same gag when I reviewed Mad Love with Peter Lorre. That was a great film. Oh, wow, I'm way off topic. So let's get back to the review. A group of scientists, they show up at Janos' house, and one of these scientists is played by Bela Lugosi. He's Dr. Bennet. There's a lot of the, how do you do, as they all, get acquainted. Janos makes a comment to one of the scientists that made me chuckle. He says, "To see you again after so many years is interesting." I love it. And it's cool always to see Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi share screen time. And both of them play a pretty substantial role in this film, which was neat. I like the kind of cheeky exchange of Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi. They say things like, "Dr. Bennet, we meet at last." And he responds, "But we already know each other." I love it, Here are these two greats of the Universal Classic Monster series sharing screen time. You can't go wrong. So Frank Lawton plays character Ronald Drake, who early on we can tell has an interest in Diana, Janos' wife. That's going to be trouble, buddy. But, she's married to Janos, so be careful here. So things kind of pick up, and we have Janos takes the scientists into this planetarium thing and shows them this really cool, overhead movie thing with planets zooming by. And then he gives a demonstration of this big space rock landing in Africa somewhere. And he's convinced that there's this mysterious radium X element that they're going to go and find. It's somewhere in Africa. And the scientists who just watched his presentation, they're all impressed. They change their tune about him, and they invite him to go with them to Africa to look for, remnants of this space rock. So off to Africa we go, and they're looking around and researching, and Janos is able to find some of this mysterious radium X. It's all creepy and has sparks flying everywhere. And by harnessing this power rather quickly, he's able to do a demonstration of melting a giant rock using his laser gun thing, to the horror of some of the African natives who are watching. So seems like Janos at this time has sort of gone a little bit crazy or evil, but let's just see how it plays out. So a little bit later, Janos is in his tent, he's having a snack, and he realizes and we realize that he now glows in the dark. And you know what, Janos, if you're glowing with radiation, probably not a good idea to reach down and pet your dog. Anyhow, his wife comes by to check on him, and, from behind the tent wall, he just kind of yells and tells her to leave. So she plans to depart the next day. Janos, meanwhile, seeks after his friend, Dr. Bennet. This is Bela Lugosi's character. And Janos appeals to Bennet to help him figure out what's going on with his weird, glowy appearance, the poison touch thing going on, and he agrees. I mean, come on, Universal monsters, stick together. So Bennet helps with a cure and gives Janos careful instructions with a dire warning that these conditions can still return if he doesn't take his medication. That's a little bit important to the story. Meanwhile, back to the character of Ronald, he professes his love for Diana, again, Janos' wife, and I don't think that's going to be a good idea, buddy. So Janos gets the news that his wife is in love with someone else. He's very angry about it, of course, but he kind of focuses his energies back on working with this element of radium X and doing his experiments with it. So one of the first things he does is he develops this invisible ray, and he shoots it directly at his mother's eyes to heal her of blindness. He has basically found this awesome eye treatment that cures blindness. So that's pretty handy, you know. And speaking as someone with crappy vision, I can really appreciate the doctor's efforts here. So Dr. Bennet, he gets in on this technology and he starts his own clinic to just start healing people left and right. And we can see that Janos is kind of bothered by this. You know, he wants it to be used for something else, something, you know, more epic instead of just eye care. So what he does is, I guess he's slowly starting to go crazy as he fakes his death and has a body that's burned beyond recognition, so everybody thinks he's dead. And basically, Janos starts killing people, starting with Dr. Stevens, one of the Radium X scientists, and while doing so, he's also symbolically destroying statues, because why not? So Dr. Bennet is onto the fact something fishy's going on, and he's able to do some detective work, and he shows that on the victim's body there was a handprint left with radiation. So people are all dying, and he's kind of figured out what's going on. So there's this medical conference, and Dr. Bennet suspects that this Janos will appear, and he's ready for him, kind of like a trap setup. We're going to see what happens. But will he be able to snag Janos and his radiation murderous spree? Well, you got to check this one out and see how it ends. It's actually a really cool ending, but not going to give any spoilers. You got to go watch this yourself. Now, quick closing thoughts. I like this movie. It's a little less horror focused and a little more sci-fi, even if the sci-fi elements are a little bit cheesy. And I love seeing both of these horror icons playing opposite of each other. And it's interesting too. I've always grown up believing that there was some sort of a rivalry between Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, but some of my research lately shows that the two of them were actually friends, and that the rivalry was just something kind of generated by the studios. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to dig into some books on this and probably do a video in the future kind of talking about the relationship of those two actors. I like them both. I think they're amazing. And I really like the fact that they both get a fair amount of screen time together in this film. And I think this is the second or third film I've seen with both of them in. They were great in Black Cat. Haven't seen The Raven yet. It's on my list. A note, even though when you watch the opening credits, you can see Karloff gets, top billing in the credits and huge bold print, it still seems like Bela Lugosi was just as much a star of this film, and not as the bad guy either. I thought it was a fair balance, and this was just a lot of fun. Don't read into it too deeply. It's the Invisible Ray. It's a fun, kind of cheesy science fiction film from 1936. It's worth checking out.